Joining me live, Assistant Foreign Affairs Minister Tim Watts. Thanks for your time.
Great to be with you, Tom.
Is it though? You couldn't get the gig over to India to watch the fourth test? Did you try? Did you say I'm available?
Well, it's a crowded field at the moment, Tom. There is a cricket team worth of ministers going to India and Indian ministers coming back to Australia. It's a real reflection of the strength and depth of our relationship at the moment.
The Indian relationship, where does it sit in the priorities of the Labor government?
Oh, it's a massive priority. And I think today, with Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Albanese going out there in Ahmedabad at the world's biggest stadium for the first ever Test match, I'm tempted to say this could be the biggest day in Australian-Indian relations, but I want to see what happens in the cricket first. It's a really important relationship for strategic reasons and also for economic reasons. There's a big economic agenda in the Prime Minister's visit this year, leading Trade Minister Farrell, Resources Minister King, and a very significant CEO delegation to really deepen that trade relationship between our countries on critical minerals, education, the full gamut.
Yeah, it'd probably be an even bigger day if the trophy was still on the table, but we couldn't quite manage that. What do we sort of offer to India, do you think? We know why India is important to Australia. Why is Australia important to India?
Well, Australia and India share similar challenges in our region, and we share similar perspectives on how we should go about responding to those challenges. So India isn't just a strong bilateral partner, and this annual Leaders Summit, it's an important symbol that our leaders meet on an annual basis. And I should say that when Prime Minister Albanese goes back to India in September of this year, he'll be the first Australian Prime Minister to visit India twice. Narendra Modi will be coming here for the Quad Leaders Summit later this year, and that will be his second visit here. And that's a representation of the other forum that we cooperate in the Quad, where we're building public goods in the Indo-Pacific, helping build resilience, stability and prosperity in our region. So we share similar challenges and similar outlooks.
Clearly the Quad's this bulwark in terms of China aggression as well, but whilst we have a shared value on, I suppose, countries playing by the rules, is it concerning some of the directions of the Modi government? We had this BBC documentary and the government there took pretty extreme measures to block it being viewed. Is that a worry, that direction?
Well, India is a robust democracy with an independent judiciary. Australian government, though, we are unshrinking in our advocacy for freedom of expression in Australia and overseas. And the issues you're talking about, we have engaged with the Indian system on those issues. But I should say that the strength of our relationship and the trust between ministers in India and in Australia means that we can raise those issues directly, but we do so privately.
Right. So, but on that direction in terms of freedom, there's a growing consensus among analysts that if Narendra Modi wins a third term, he could move to change the constitution to make India a Hindu nation. Would that be a step backwards for freedom, for secularism?
Well, India's constitution guarantees the rights of its citizens, including freedom of religion. And I should say that the people-to-people ties between Australia and India give you a really good insight into what's going on in the country. So 900,000 Australians, or nearly 900,000 Australians, have Indian heritage, 80,000 Indian students studying here, 300,000 tourists a year. We see a great traffic going backwards and forwards, and I can say that I have contacts in the Indian system across the full political spectrum, in government, in civil society, academia, media, and it's robust. There are so many views and perspectives shared. It is a diverse and wide-ranging conversation going on over there.
And so changing that constitution would need to happen, but that's seemingly what's on the table. If that were to happen, is that something Australia's urging against?
Well, when we have concerns on human rights issues, we do engage with the Indian system on them. But as I say, we do that privately. We do that directly with our counterparts in India, as I have as the Foreign Minister.
Well, there are issues with China we raise publicly. Why not India? Why is that only done privately?
Well, we make an assessment about what's most likely to have leverage and have traction. And as I say, we have a strong relationship of trust with our counterparts in India. And we leverage that relationship of trust to raise issues directly and privately.
If something were to happen after the event, would that be the sort of thing we'd feel we needed to speak about publicly? If something
I think we're now going on to levels of hypotheticals there, Tom. But what I can say is that we have a wide-ranging and direct and robust engagement with our Indian colleagues. I visited India late last year, met with many ministerial colleagues on a wide-ranging agenda. In my electorate, in Melbourne, we have the biggest Bollywood film festival held on an annual basis outside of India every year. I was able to meet with Minister Thakur, who is also the Sport and Culture Minister over there, and have a very deep conversation about not just the film relationships between our countries that Prime Minister Albanese will be talking about in his visit there, but also those sporting relationships. And very important to the Indian system that kabaddi, traditional Indian sport, will be a demonstration sport at the Commonwealth Games in Victoria later this year.
I didn't realise that. How does that sport work? I must admit.
Kabaddi. Well, it's a complex one.
Right.
I've watched a few games. I can't profess to fully understand the rules.
Okay.
It's a lot of sort of ganging up and sort of whispering under the breath, and it's very sort of macho and muscly. I haven't tried it myself though, Tom.
I'll have to look it up. I wish we had overlay to roll, but clearly I wasn't prepared for that. Kabaddi, there you go. Just finally, buying subs off the shelf is the latest report in terms of what happened with AUKUS. Would that be a bit of a coup if we managed to get countries to agree to sell submarines to us in the early 2030s? Because that's when the capability gap looms.
Look, Tom, I appreciate there is intense interest and in speculation in the progress of the AUKUS agreement, and we are coming very close to the point where we'll be able to make an announcement about the optimal pathway for the implementation of that submarine acquisition. But it's not for me to make that announcement. More senior people in the government.
They're all in India. They won't
systems.
know. They'll be...
I like to think that the Prime Minister pays attention to the work that I do on these issues, Tom. I might be deluding myself, but I think that if I announced the optimal pathway myself, it might be noticed by my colleagues.
All right, I like to think he's watching Newsday over there, but we can all think what we'd like, I suppose. Tim Watts, thank you.
Pleasure.